Welcome everyone. My name is Hemu and today's we are here for the Palo Alto Firewall demo. So before starting the demo, let me tell you about this particular training. I will go through with the course content, right? And after that we will discuss one of the topic and after that we will bind that particular demo. So this particular batch we are starting from 3rd of August and guys it's a weekends batch. Okay, and your classes will happen Saturday and Sunday. First, we will start your Palo Alto Firewall. Once Palo Alto Firewall will complete, we will start your F5 LTM. And fees for both the trainings is 12,000 INR for Indian students and 200 USD for international students. Timing for this training is 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. And these are the contact numbers where you can reach out to us for the enrollment. This number belongs to me. My name is Hemu. So you can also discuss with me if you have any type of questions, any type of doubts with regards to this particular Palo Alto Firewall batch. If you have any type of doubts with regards to F5 training, then you can reach out to into this middle number, the second one. That number hold by the Vidit sir, and he will help you with your F5 related queries. And we are the working professionals, so we only provide trainings on weekends. Okay. Now we do have our portal basically. So in this particular portal, you will get all the recorded sessions with the lifetime access. And if you want, you can check out all the courses. So there are lots of courses available into our portal. And if somebody wants to purchase the video based training, they can also purchase from this particular portal. So here you will find almost all the trainings on Palo Alto Firewall, on Panorama, on Palo Alto troubleshooting, on Palo Alto IPSec VPN, on F5 LTM, GTM, ASM, right? You will get the trainings on Fortigate Firewall, Checkpoint Firewall, and I do have a very good training on AWS actually. So if you will see, we have a very good training on AWS for network engineers, and it's around 60 plus hours of training where I have covered most of the concepts in details. Okay, so this is our video portal. We do have a two YouTube channels. So the first channel name is Sianets. You can guys check out these particular YouTube channels and you will get how we used to deliver the trainings, right? You will get lots of videos here on Palo Alto Firewall, on F5 LTM, GTM, ASM, Panorama, AWS, Fortinet Firewall, Python for network automation, right? We do have a second YouTube channel with the name of Skilled Inspirational Academy. So you can also check out this particular YouTube channel. You will get the videos on Palo Alto Firewall, F5 LTM, GTM, ASM, Wireshark, right? All these such type of trainings available. We have a website as well, Sianets.com. You can check out this particular website. So this is all about ourselves. Now, let me just start your demo, guys. So before starting this demo, let me just try to tell you what are the things we are covering in this particular training. So your Palo Alto training is around 48 plus hours of training. So as I have mentioned, there are a total of 16 classes and each class will be of 3 hours. And if I'll say 3 hours, then it's a strict 3 hours actually. Okay. You will get the lifetime interview support from our side. We will help you with the documentation. So you will get lots of documents from our side to basically prepare for yourself towards the interviews. If you want to prepare yourself towards the concepts, right? So you will get these documents, and I will also share a couple of official documents like piece to clear the PCNSE exam, right? You will get the access of each and every session will be recorded, and you will get the access of these recordings with lifetime access through our portal. We will also help you building the lab on your laptop. If your laptop is not sufficient, then we will help you building the lab on Google Cloud. Now, to build the Palo Alto lab in your laptop, we need minimum 16 GB of RAM. Your laptop should be greater than or equals to i5 processor, and you have around 100 GB of free space in your SSD or in your SDD. Okay, so this is the requirement in your laptop. And if you don't have a laptop, then what you can basically I will guide you through how you can build your account on Google Cloud. and how we can install the EVNG on Google Cloud, because when you will register in your Google Cloud, you will get 24,000 INR as a free credit. So what we can able to build the lab on GCP. It's a beacons batch. During the training, you can also discuss if any type of issues you are facing in your office environment. You will also get the mock interview supports. If you have interviews, right, we will help you how you can prepare for that particular interview. So these are the things which we are covering in this particular training. Now let me just go through with the Palo Alto Firewall course content. So your Palo Alto training, I will start with discussing the platform and architecture. So right, Palo Alto have a different type of product portfolio, right? And they have a basically different hardware devices, different virtual devices of your Palo Alto or next generation firewalls, right? So I will discuss what is the use of PA 200 series box, right? Then we have a Palo Alto 400 series box, right? Then we have a Palo Alto 800 series. Then recently they have introduced Palo Alto Firewall 1400 series, right? Then they have a Palo Alto 3200 series. They have also launched 3400 series, right? Then they have a Palo Alto 5200 series. Then recently they have launched 5400 series boxes, right? Then Palo Alto 7000 series, right? So I will discuss all these platforms, right? All the details, like let's suppose if you want to deploy the Palo Alto firewall in the data center environment, right? Then you have to go for the Palo Alto 5400 series boxes or Palo Alto 7000 boxes. If let's take an example, you just have a medium size organization, then you have to basically go for the Palo Alto 3200 series or 1400 series or 800 series boxes. Then we have a 200 series and PF 400 series as well for the small scale organization. So we will discuss all such details with regards to the hardware platforms. Then Palo Alto do have a virtual platforms as well. The VM devices, they have a VM50, then VM100, then VM300, VM700, right? And you can also basically build the Palo Alto VM by using the CPU and RAM. You can able to do the customization on it, right? So I will discuss these particular virtual devices as well. And recently Palo Alto Firewall also introduced the cloud native firewalls, basically how Palo Alto Firewall images you can run as a Docker images, right? So we will discuss these CN series devices as well, right? So these are the details I will cover with regards to your platforms. Okay, now once platform part will complete, I will basically focus towards the architecture. And in your last demo, if somebody have joined, I have discussed this SP3 architecture, like single pass software and parallel processing hardware, right? So because SP3 is the most asked interview question as well on Palo Alto Firewall. So I will give you very good understanding of SP3 architecture, right? How Palo Alto Firewall segregated the management traffic, how they have segregated the data plane, right? In data plane, how many further processors are available for networking, right? For the security processing, for the layer 7 to layer 7 processing and all, right? Everything we will discuss, like what is the use of Jaguar chip, what is the use of Octeon chip, what is the use of network processor, right? Like how we can say network processor is a offloader, and also everything we will discuss in this SP3 architecture. Once SP3 architecture will complete, after that I focus on flow logic or life of a packet in Palo Alto Firewall. Means when any packet received by the Palo Alto Firewall, how Palo Alto Firewall going to do the processing, right? Because packet flow have couple of processing stages, right? How Palo Alto Firewall handles the packet at ingress stage, how Palo Alto Firewall do the session lookup, then how Palo Alto Firewall do the silo path or session setup, how Palo Alto Firewall do the fast path, how Palo Alto Firewall do the app ID, content ID, forwarding, right? All these stages we will discuss in detail. Means we will try to see the entire life of a session inside the Palo Alto Firewall. Once this part will complete, I'll move towards the initial configuration, because this is the first task we have to do. Whenever we will get a new fresh box in your environment, how we can bring the management interface up and running, what are the configuration we have to do, how we can configure the IP address, right? How we can configure the default gateway, how we can do the configure the host name, domain name, right? NTP, DNS, all such type of thing. Means how we can get the initial access of your Palo Alto firewall using the console cable. Then we can configure the management port of Palo Alto firewall. We can allow the ping service, HTTPS service, SSH service, telnet, HTTP, right? All these services. How we can basically do the restrictions, means how we can do the hardening, right? All such types of things I will discuss in your initial configuration stage. Configuration of management interface. Then once your management interface up and running, right? Once we have a serial number, then how we can use that particular serial number to register our Palo Alto firewall with the Palo Alto support portals, right? Because because once you will register your device with the Palo Alto support portal, and after that only it can able to fetch the license and software updates automatically. And how we can basically do the licensing, because you used to receive a auth code from the Palo Alto sales team whenever you will purchase a Palo Alto box, right? Then how we can utilize these auth codes, how we can basically log in into support portal, and how we can activate these licenses. So these are the things I'm going to cover in detail. Then how we can basically download the software updates automatically, or how we can basically download it manually in your system, then we can upload on Palo Alto firewall if we want to perform the upgrade activity, right? As per the Palo Alto suggested operating system, that the stable version, right? So once licensing software, this part will complete, I'll move towards the account administration. Means how we can basically create a accounts on Palo Alto firewall, so people can log in into your firewall, and they can able to do the configuration related tasks, right? How we can create these account administration, right? How we can define the admin roles. Let's suppose we have a L1 engineers, and we just want to provide the access to that these people as a read only, right? How we can achieve that task. So I will basically discuss everything in details. How we can do the account administration, how we can integrate Palo Alto firewall with Active Directory or LDAP servers or the Radius server, right? Because in most of the organization, you are having Active Directory, or either you are having the Radius servers, which is like a Cisco ICE, let's suppose you are running, or the Aruba ClearPass you are running, right? How we can do the integration of Palo Alto firewall using the Radius, right? Once this account administration will complete, because this part is most important, right? Let's take an example. You have a engineer, and that engineer wants to do some type of automation work, right? Then how we can allow the access of Palo Alto firewall API, right? How we can basically control the CLI access of your Palo Alto firewall. What are the things we want to allow to an engineer in the GUI? What he can do, what he can watch, what he can see, right? All these things comes under this account administration, and we are going to do. Then we will go for the interface configuration, right? How we can basically configure your data interfaces, right? How we can create the security zones, because Palo Alto firewall is a zone based firewall. How we can deploy Palo Alto firewall as a layer 2 device, how we can deploy Palo Alto firewall as a layer 3 device. And guys, your 99% deployment will happens on layer 3 only. How we can deploy Palo Alto 5 in virtual wire, and around 1% customer used to deploy Palo Alto 5 in virtual wire. Layer 2 deployment I have not seen so far in my career. How we can deploy Palo Alto firewall as a tap mode, right? So all these particular features we will test by doing the labs in the environment. Once this part will complete, I'll move towards the sub interfaces. How we can create the sub interfaces on Palo Alto firewall, right? Because let's take an example. We have a Palo Alto box here, and we have a interface Ethernet 1 by 1, and we have here layer 2 switch. And in this layer 2 switch, let's take an example. This is a trunk port. In this trunk port, we are allowing VLAN 10, 20, and 30. Then what we can create a 3 sub interfaces here. like Ethernet 1x1.10, 1x.20 and 1x.30, right? And we can put them on an appropriate VLAN and we can configure the IP address and all, right? How we can achieve these tasks, because you will see these sub interfaces in your production environment. You will see the concept of aggregate interfaces, which is ether channel, right? How we can utilize the ether channels in your Palo Alto firewall. So all these things we are going to discuss in this session. And whatever we have discussed so far, I will tell you how you can manage these things via GUI and how you can manage the same thing via CLI. And I will also tell you couple of API related stuff. I think API I have not added in this particular course content, but last session I will take on API, how we can control the Palo Alto Firewall using the API calls, right? Using the expedition tool and all. So I will try to take couple of sessions on API as well this time. Then we will discuss how we can configure Palo Alto Firewall as a DSCP server, as a DSCP relay agent, or as a how we can enable the DSCP client option on your Palo Alto Firewall interfaces. So Palo Alto Firewall get the IP address from DSCP server, which is not recommended at all, right? We want the static IP address on our network device, on our Palo Alto Firewall interfaces, right? Then we will discuss the virtual routers. In your Palo Alto Firewall, if you want to configure any type of routing, we have to go with the virtual routers. Inside the virtual routers, we will configure the static routing, your dynamic routing protocol like RIP, OSPF, BGP, right? How we can basically create a multiple virtual routers and how we can allow the communication between multiple virtual. Let's take an example. We have a VR1 here and we have a VR2 here. In this VR1, we are having Ethernet 1x1 and Ethernet 1x2. In VR3, we have Ethernet 1x3, Ethernet 1x4, and Ethernet 1x5. And let's take an example. Your Ethernet 1x1 and 1x2 have a connectivity with one of the router. And you want to configure BGP between this particular router and this particular VR. And because this router is a WAN router. Let's take an example, right? And the Palo Alto interface Ethernet 1x3, 1x4, and 1x5 have a connectivity with one of the layer 3 switch. This is your LAN switch. And you are using OSPF maybe in your LAN environment, or maybe you are using a static routing, right? Then how you can allow the communication between these two particular virtual routers, how you can enable the routing, right? So these things we will discuss in your multi-VR setup, and we will discuss the use case as well for that. So once this part will complete, here basically till that point we will cover your how you can bring the layer 3 step in your Palo Alto, means how you can configure the data port, IP address, how you can configure the routing, how you can create the security zones, how you can configure the virtual routers. Means now your firewall is up and running with regards to the layer 3 information. Once this part will complete, I'll move towards the security and net policies. Because in Palo Alto Firewall, all the traffic is denied from one zone to another zone, because we have a interzone deny rule on the Palo Alto Firewall, right? It will not allow anything. And if you want to control the information, if you want to control the traffic, you have to go with the security policies, right? And in your Palo Alto Firewall, you can write the security policies on the basis of layer 3 information, on the basis of layer 4 information, and on the basis of layer 7 information. Layer 3 information includes source IP, destination IP, means your source network, right? You can define the destination network, you can define the range as well, you can define the single host, right? Layer 4 information includes your source port and destination port details. Okay. Now, why I have mentioned here layer 7? Layer 7 means you can basically configure the security policies on the basis of applications, on the basis of app ID. You can able to configure the security policies on the basis of URL filtering. Okay. And here I just forget to miss one point. You can also able to control your security policies on the basis of source user. Once you will integrate your Palo Alto with the user ID, you can control the same thing using the source user. You can also able to control the traffic on the basis of device type. These are the couple of extra features which are available in your Palo Alto firewall. Okay. And we have a couple of layer 3 protocol like GRE. If you want to control the traffic for GRE, then you have to basically depend on app ID. Okay. So that's why I mentioned it can utilize the layer 7 features. ICMP is a layer 3 protocol, right? So if you want to configure, if you want to allow the ping in your environment or trace route in your environment, you have to allow the ping application because Palo Alto supports the app ID feature. Okay. So we will discuss so many things in your security policies. I will tell you how we can do the security policy configuration, security policy administrations, right? How we can basically see, let's take an example. We have a data. Let's say your firewall is up and running from last 20 days or last 1 month, right? Now, how we can do the security policies optimization? Because we have a very good feature in your Palo Alto firewall for optimizing your security policies, right? And instead of using these rules, and instead of creating the rules on the basis of layer 3 and layer 4, you can basically migrate couple of rules on the basis of applications. So that is how we can able to do some optimization as well, right? How we can basically, what is the processing order of these security policies, everything we will discuss in detail. When this part will complete, after that I'll move towards the net policies, where I will discuss the source net, destination net, how we can configure the port address translation, PAT, right? How we can able to configure the dynamic net, how we can configure your destination net, right? So we will discuss around 3 use cases of DNet in your Palo Alto firewall. I will also discuss the concept of U-turn-net, how we can configure the U-turn-net in your Palo Alto firewall, right? So this security policies and net, these 3 things actually I used to teach around 9 hours. So because we used to discuss lots of use cases on that. Okay. So I have just covered these things in just in 4 points, but it's around 3 days of sessions on the security policy and net rules. Then I will move towards the app ID, application identification, which is a very, or I can say it's a core feature of your Palo Alto firewall. I will tell you how we can, what is the app ID overview, what is the app ID flow, how Palo Alto Firewall do the application identification, how we can create application groups and we can utilize these groups for allowing or denying the traffic, how we can create a filters and we can utilize these filters for allowing or denying the traffic, right? How we can basically then deny all the risk level 5 applications, how we can deny the risk level 4 applications, right? How we can deny the traffic for media streaming application, right? So we can able to create these filters. Here I will also cover how we can create the custom application. Let's take an example. We have one application and that application is only designed for your internal infrastructure. Your internal users are using that application, right? In that case, what I will basically help you how we can build the custom application and how we can utilize these custom application. We will also discuss what is the app override policies. Okay. So once this part will complete, here I will also create what is the what type of application signatures we are having, right? Everything I will cover in your app ID. How Palo Alto Firewall do the application shift, right? Just give me one example. Whenever you will access the Facebook, what you will generally access by typing this URL, right? https://facebook.com. So when the first time this request seen by the Palo Alto Firewall, right? What? First TCP three-way handshake will complete, right? Then your SSL handshake will complete. Once SSL handshake will complete, then your Facebook traffic you will see, right? I can say app traffic. Let's suppose you have logged in into your Facebook and you are using the Facebook message or Facebook chat. This is your Facebook chat, right? Means when Palo Alto Firewall sees these messages, what he will basically consider the application as SSL. Once Palo Alto Firewall sees the application traffic here, it will categorize this application as a Facebook base. Once he will see the traffic for Facebook chat, then he will basically categorize this application as a Facebook chat. So means here your application is shifting from SSL to Facebook base, then Facebook base to Facebook chat, right? Then how this particular application shift work in your Palo Alto Firewall, right? And also how Palo Alto Firewall do the app identification for TCP based applications, how your Palo Alto Firewall do the app identification for UDP based traffic. And Palo Alto Firewall will also they have also introduced, there is a one more very good feature which is app ID cache. How it can utilize this app ID cache just to get the application details in your silo path itself, right? So all these features I will discuss in your app ID. Once your app ID will complete, I'll move towards the content ID. Content ID is a very, very cool feature in your Palo Alto Firewall because if you want to protect your infrastructure from viruses, means then you have to basically enable the antivirus protection. You can enable the anti-spyware protection to protect your infrastructure from the spywares. You can protect your organization from the vulnerabilities, right? Guys, do you know what type of vulnerabilities we are having? Are you aware about that? We can have a vulnerabilities at the operating system level. Let's take an example in Windows. Maybe we have some type of vulnerabilities, right? Then you will see the vulnerabilities at the service level. Service level means let's take an example. Let's take an example of service which is VSFTPD. This is a FTP service. Maybe this particular service having some type of vulnerability, right? Or we can also see the service or vulnerabilities at the application level. Let's take an example of VLC software. VLC media player software, right? Maybe that software have some type of vulnerabilities. And what hacker used to do? Hacker used to basically try to exploit these particular vulnerabilities using the exploitation tools. And how we can protect from such type of attacks using the vulnerability protection profiles, and we are going to see all that with regards to the lab, because I have a lots of vulnerable machine on my environment and I will launch such type of attacks, and I will show you how we can get the access by exploiting that particular operating system or that particular service, right? And if we have a Palo Alto firewall in between, then how Palo Alto firewall protecting from such type of attacks, right? So we will see these type of vulnerabilities. Then I will discuss the URL filtering, how we can basically block the traffic for adult websites, how we can block the traffic for social networking websites, how we can block the traffic for malware related websites, right? So these things we can able to control using the URL filtering. So we will discuss all that in with regards in your URL filtering, how we can block the traffic on the basis of URLs, right? How we can basically configure the external dynamic list. Let's take an example. You have a one of the third party company working for you, and these people, they used to share the details of malicious URLs or the malicious domains, right? Then how we can utilize this external dynamic list feature in your Palo Alto firewall to basically protect from these type of malicious domains or malicious URLs, right? How we can configure the file blocking, how we can control the upload download of your different file types. Let's take an example. We can block the complete uploading and downloading of exe files, .bat file, .dll file, right? How we can control .gif file, how we can control all of them. How we can just allow the downloading of PDF files or your documents related files, right? So such type of control we can get with regards to file policies. So we will discuss these file policies here. Then I will basically, I will discuss the security profiles with regards to file blocking. Then we have a very good feature which is wildfire in your Palo Alto Firewall, means how Palo Alto Firewall protect you from the 0-day attack. How Palo Alto, generally Palo Alto used to say they have a 0-day protection, right? Means how Palo Alto Firewall protect us from the unknown malware or the very, very newly launched malware, and that malware signature database is not available on your PAN OS. Then how we can basically get the protection from such type of malwares? For that, we have to basically go with the wildfire feature. And I will explain you how wildfire works, because there are proper operations for wildfire, right? So we will discuss that particular wildfire protection. So in content ID, we will discuss most of the things at layer 7, because all such type of attacks used to happen using the layer 7 information in your packet. Okay. But let's take an example. Let's suppose if somebody is trying to launch the attack on the basis of layer 3 and layer 4 information. Let's suppose has someone has launched the IP spoofing attack, or somebody has launched the TCP SYN flood attack, or the UDP flood attack, or the ICMP flood attack, right? Or let's suppose somebody has modified the header and they have added some extra fields in these layer 3 or layer 4 headers, right? Because they have options fields, right? And let's say they have utilized that information, they have added some malicious content there, right? How we can protect from such type of attacks, right? For that, we have a zone protection and DOS protection feature in your Palo Alto Firewall. And here in your session, I will try to launch the live attack on the Palo Alto Firewall. And I will show you, if we have a zone protection enabled, then how we are getting the protection. And if we are not having zone protection enabled there, then how Palo Alto Firewall is reacting there, right? So we will discuss all these things in your zone protection and DOS protection session. When this part will complete, I'll move towards your SSL decryption, because nowadays most of the websites, right, they are hosted on HTTPS, right? And whenever any machine trying to communicate with the server who is hosted over a HTTPS, what they used to build the SSL tunnel. This is the SSL tunnel which they have built, right? Means whatever traffic this PC and this server is exchanging, all that traffic is encrypted by the TLS protocol, by the transport layer security protocol, right? Now, let's suppose we have a firewall here, and that particular traffic is also going through this firewall. Now, how your firewall can able to see that particular traffic? Because if your traffic is protected by this TLS, my firewall will not able to analyze this traffic. Means it cannot able to analyze the content at layer 7. Okay. Then how we can basically configure the decryption in your Palo Alto Firewall? Means whatever communication is happening between this PC and this server, when this traffic received by the firewall decrypt it, it will analyze it, and it will re-encrypt, and it will forward this traffic towards the server. When server sends the reply, it received by the firewall decrypt this reply, he will analyze it, it will check against the threats, and after that it will re-encrypt and forward towards this PC. Then how we can basically configure the decryption? And this decryption basically required the knowledge of SSL handshake. You should be good with the SSL handshake, right? You should have a knowledge of certificates, how certificate works, right? What is the root CA? What is the intermediate root CA? Then what is the digital certificate? What is the certificate signing request, right? So we will see all these things practically, and I will tell you how the certificates things works in your environment. And I have a very good video as well available on my YouTube channel on certificate, on the cryptography. If you can check out that video, you will get the whole idea how your certificate created, how they will basically do the digital signing, right? How they will add the thumbprints, everything I have covered in detail. Then we will discuss the SSL handshake. So I will tell you everything with regards to SSL handshake. Then I will tell you how we can configure the SSL decryption. For outbound traffic, how we can configure the SSL decryption for inbound traffic. And when you will configure this outbound SSL decryption, inbound SSL decryption, so for outbound SSL decryption, either we can decrypt all the websites traffic, but in couple of countries we cannot allow to decrypt the financial websites traffic related to health and medicine websites, traffic related to the government website. Then how we can basically do the exclusion for that? So everything we will see in this particular session. Then I will tell you how we can able to configure the SSH decryption, because nowadays people are launching the attack with the help of SSH tunnels. They used to create the SSH tunnels, and through this tunnel they can forward any type of traffic. They used to do the SSH proxy nowadays. How we so I will tell you, if we don't have that policy, and I will just allow the SSH on my firewall, and you can see through this SSH tunnel I can able to send any type of traffic for Facebook, for Gmail, all type of traffic I can forward through this tunnel. And once I will enable this SSH decryption, then we will see how my firewall is blocking that particular traffic, right? So we will see everything here in your SSL decryption, and I will also tell you couple of other information also, like what is the SSL engine we are having, right? How this particular engine analyze the layer 7 information, right? What is the proxy flag? I will tell you everything in this particular session. When this part will complete, I'll move towards the user ID. Very good feature of your Palo Alto Firewall, how we can able to configure the user identification, how we can able to do the active directory integration, right? How we can able to get the user to IP mapping. So where we will see how we can use the inbuilt PAN-OS user ID agent, and how we can use a dedicated user ID agent. We can install that dedicated user ID agent on one of the member server, and we can fetch all the users related information. Whenever any users log in your environment, they used to basically, there is a one security event is generated. There is a one logon security event is generated in the AD server or in your domain server, right? In your domain controller. Then how Palo Alto can read these security events, and it can basically create the user to IP mapping, user ID agent deployment. So everything we will see. Then once we have the user database, what I will also tell you how we can get the user to IP, user to group mapping. Then how we can use these user to group mapping in your security policy. Let's take an example. We have a group of HR users. We have a group for IT admins. We have a group for marketing users. Then how we can restrict the communication? Let's suppose if HR users trying to access the social networking website, we can block the access. And if HR people wants to access the job posting sites like your Naukri.com, Monster.com, we can allow the traffic. For marketing people, we can allow the access of social networking, but we can block the access for job search website. So how we can achieve all these tasks? So we will see all these particular thing in your user ID session. Once your user ID will complete, I'll move towards the IPSec related classes. IPSec site-to-site VPN, where we will discuss phase 1 exchange, phase 2 exchange, IPSec tunnels, and I will try to cover the 13 use cases. How you can create IPsec tunnel between two Palo Alto firewall when both firewall have a static IP address, and we will use here pre-shared key. In the second use case, how we can create the IPsec tunnel between two Palo Alto devices having a static IP at both end, but here we will use the certificate instead of pre-shared key. IPsec site-to-site VPN between two Palo Alto devices having overlapping subnet. How we can able to achieve that task? Let's suppose you are configuring this IPsec site-to-site VPN between your firewall and one of the customer firewall. And there is a high chance maybe your customer is also using the same subnets which you are having in your environment, right? Then it's a case of overlapping subnet. Then how you can achieve that task, right? Then IPsec site-to-site VPN between two Palo Alto devices when one peer having a IP address from DSCP means IP address is not fixed. How we can configure that firewall? Here your aggressive mode come in a picture. Then IPsec side-to-side VPN between Palo Alto devices, where one peer behind the NAT gateway. So here your NET traverser concept can come in a picture. Then we will discuss dual IPsec side-to-side VPN with dual ISP from single firewall with a remote firewall. Means how we can basically create a hub and spoke type of environment. How we can achieve the failover. Let's take an example. Just 1 minute, let me go down. So here, let's take an example. We have a two ISP connection, one from Airtel and one from Tata, right? And your IPsec tunnel is working fine with Airtel side. Let's say Airtel side went down. Then we want automatic failover from the Tata ISP. How we can achieve that task using the failover, using the tunnel monitoring, failover using the static route path monitoring, and how we can basically achieve the same task using the policy based forwarding and the virtual router. Then IPsec between your Palo Alto Firewall and Cisco ASA. IPsec between Cisco ASA and Palo Alto Firewall, where Palo Alto Firewall have IP address from DHCP. Configuring route-based IPsec VPN using OSPF. How we can create an hub and spoke type of environment, right? Configuring route-based hub and spoke IPsec tunnel using OSPF. We have heard the name of DM VPN previously, right? In your Cisco devices. So it's the same type of environment. Once your IPsec tunnel will complete, I'll move towards the global protect. In your global protect is a remote access VPN service from Palo Alto. And we will see how we can basically, I will give you the global protect overview. What is the global protect portal? What is global protect gateway? Then what is global protect client, right? Then I will discuss the global protect connection flow, global protect connection method, what is the user logon method, what is user logon on demand method, right? What is pre-logon on demand, pre-logon then user logon, right? So all these four method we will discuss: user logon, on demand, pre-logon then on demand, pre-logon then user logon. How we can utilize these particular four methods and what is the deployment scenarios for these particular four methods. And I will discuss this connection flow, means what type of transactions used to happen when we will create a connection with your global protect portal and gateway. Because if you know that particular connection flow, you can able to do the troubleshooting. And in your IPsec and global protect class, I will also discuss what are the daemons involved. Like in your IPsec VPN, there are a couple of daemons like IKE manager. There is a one daemon called tunnel D. Then there's a one more daemon like crypto D, key MGR. How these particular daemons utilize in your IPsec VPN. And you know, in your IPsec session, I will basically also tell you how you can basically take out the keys, basically that particular encryption key and authentication key, and we will see how we can able to decrypt the ESP packets using the Wireshark, how we can able to decrypt the ISACM packets using the Wireshark, because I will tell you how we can take out these keys by running the advanced level debug in your IKE manager daemon. Okay, so IPsec I used to explain very in depth, and you can also, if you will check my YouTube channel, you will get lots of videos on IPsec. Even though where also I have covered that particular decryption and other things. In your global protect also, I will decrypt your SSL related packets. Everything I will decrypt and I will show you, and I will use the Wireshark for that. Okay, so you will get the entire idea how they are communicating with each other. When this part will complete, I'll move towards the active direct high availability, where I will discuss active passive high availability, configuration of active passive HA. Then I will also give you the advanced level information with regards to high availability, like how your HA agent daemon communicate from firewall 1 to firewall 2, how the system daemon will communicate from firewall 1 to firewall 2, how basically your pen DHA daemon communicate from firewall 1 to firewall 2. What is the HA1 link? What is HA1 backup? What is HA2? What is HA2 backup? What are the use of these links? Everything we will discuss in detail. Then we will discuss active high availability, configuration of active HA. We will discuss floating IP HA lab, ARP load share HA lab, mixed mode HA lab, right? And when we will discuss these things, I will discuss the HA timers. What are the high availability timers? What is the concept of HA3 interface? What is session owner? What is session setup device, right? What is the traffic flow in case of HA? HA, like what type of stage we are having in your active passive HA and in your active HA, how they will basically trigger the failover, right? What are the condition, how we can able to configure the path monitoring, how we can able to configure the link monitoring, right? How we can monitor your data interfaces. Everything we will discuss in detail in your HA class. Once this part will complete, I used to also run couple of troubleshooting webinars on packet filter, packet capture, and flow basic, and the TCP dump. So these webinar links also I will share with you guys, so you can join, and we will basically do the troubleshooting using the packet filter or packet based troubleshooting on your Palo Alto Firewall. So this is the course content which I am going to cover in your in this particular training now. So I think I have explained the very detailed overview of your course content. But before starting the today's topic, what I wanted to tell you, let me just show you what are the network topologies I am going to use in your training. So this is the very first network topology which I will use for configuring or demonstrating the static routes, path monitoring, policy based forwarding, ECMP, which is equal cost multipathing, and dual ISP lab. So here I have a Palo Alto Firewall, I have a Airtel ISP, Tata ISP, right? I have a two links towards the outside. Then we have a DMZ zone, guest zone, inside zone, right? How we can able to configure the routing and how we can allow the communication. Everything we will discuss in detail. If your primary ISP went down, then how we can basically do the traffic forwarding to the secondary ISP, how we can able to configure the policy based forwarding, which is PVF, right? So this is the lab I will use for this particular practicals. Then I will basically do have a HA related lab. Let me just tell you IPSec. So this is the lab topology which I'm going to use for IPSec related practicals, where I have my Palo Alto Firewall 1, which is in head office. I have a Palo Alto Firewall 2, which is in branch office. I have a Palo Alto Firewall 3, which is also in one of the branch office, and I have a Cisco SA firewall, which is a customer firewall. Then by using this topology, we can able to configure all these 13 use cases in your Palo Alto Firewall for VPN. So this is the lab which I'm going to use for IPsec related practicals. And this particular lab topology I am going to use for your global protect VPN, where I have a Palo Alto Firewall in HQ, Palo Alto Firewall 1 in branch 1, and Palo Alto Firewall in branch 2. And how we have these particular three clients, and what we will basically configure the HA like Global Tech Gateway and Portal service on this router, gateway service here, gateway service here, and gateway service here. And I will just configure the portal service on this route, this particular firewall, and we will see how that gateway selection is happening. The entire process we will discuss. Close this. Let me just show you the HA lab. And this particular topology I will use for demonstrating your HA, which is active passive and active HA, and we can able to configure, we can able to do the practicals and everything by using this topology. So these are the topologies, guys, which I am going to use. I do share couple of topology like this OSPF and BGP redistribution lab, right? And I will also give you the pre-recorded videos for that, how you can configure OSPF and how you can configure BGP, how you can do the redistribution and all, right? These routing related tasks. Okay. So I will give you these topologies and also the recorded sessions you can demonstrate at your end. So these are the lab topologies which I'm going to use now. Let me guys go through with one of the topic on next generation firewall and legacy firewall, and what is the main difference between them, and why we are using next generation firewall nowadays and why we are not using legacy firewalls. Okay, so this is the topic which I'm going to cover in today's class. So if you will see guys, in this we have a list of next generation firewalls. So we have a Palo Alto networks, we have a Fortigate firewall, we have a Checkpoint firewall, and we have a Cisco FTD FMC. These four firewalls are the next generation firewalls. And we have a legacy firewalls. We have a Cisco ASA, Juniper SRX, Sophos, CyberRoam, SonicWall, ForcePoint. We do have firewall from HP and Dell, and these firewalls comes under the legacy firewalls. Now, you may ask, what is the main difference between next generation firewalls and legacy firewalls? So now let me just tell you. The main difference between next generation firewall and legacy firewall, your next generation firewall can process the traffic on the basis of layer 3 information, layer 4 information, and layer 7 information. Layer 3 information includes your source IP, destination IP. Layer 4 includes your source port and destination port. And also at layer 3, we have a couple of layer 3 protocols. And we have a layer 7 information, right? Because of that layer 7 feature, they have a features like app ID and content ID. But your legacy devices, they just support the traffic on the basis of layer 3 and layer 4 information. They are not having any type of support at layer 7, means you cannot able to configure your security policies on the basis of applications. You are not allowed to configure the policies on the basis of URLs. You are not allowed to configure the antivirus protection, anti-spyware protection, vulnerability protection. You are not allowed to do that. If let's take an example, let me just give you one example here. Let's take an example. We have a user, PC1. This user have a connectivity with one of the firewall. And let's say this firewall have a connectivity with internet. This is internet service provider, and here we have one of the server. Let's suppose it's a web server hosting their service on TCP port 443. Okay, now guys, just tell me one thing. Let's suppose this particular PC wants to communicate with this server. What is the first packet it will initiate? What is the first packet this PC will initiate when it will start communicating with this particular server? What do you think? You can write on the chat if you know the first packet. So I got an answer from couple of folks. They are saying it will basically sends the very first packet, which is TCP SYN. So what you will see the TCP SYN packet, right? Now, when this TCP SYN packet received by the firewall, let's suppose this interface Ethernet 1x2 and this interface Ethernet 1x1. Now, what firewall will do with this TCP SYN? It will basically start processing this packet, right? So just tell me one thing. In your TCP SYN packet, do this particular packet having any type of layer 7 data? No, there is no layer 7 data because it's just a SYN packet, and SYN packet it is not having anything with regards to layer 7. Okay. So this firewall receive this SYN packet, it will do the processing, it will create the session, right? And it will basically forward this packet towards this server. From this server, we will get the reply. In reply, what? We will get the TCP SYN plus ACK packet. And after that, they will basically send the acknowledgement packet, right? And that's how they will complete the TCP three-way handshake, because it's a SSL server, right? So and after that, what now they will send the very first packet from the SSL, which is client hello. Client hello received by the firewall. Firewall do the processing. It will forward this packet towards the server. And after that, server will reply with the server hello, server certificate, and server hello done. These three messages, right? That's how your firewall used to do the packet processing. Now guys, if I will write down couple of things, let's take an example. This PC having the IP address which is 10.1.1.100. Here we have a 10.1.1.250. And this interface, let's have the IP address 10.2.2.250. And let's suppose this server have the IP address which is 50.50.50.50. Okay, this is just an example. Okay, now. And let's take an example. This is a Cisco ASA firewall. It's just a Cisco ASA firewall. Now let me write down a couple of things. Let me just remove this for now. Now guys, tell me one thing. Generally on Cisco ASA firewall, how we used to create the security policies. If somebody has worked with the Cisco ASA, in your ASA firewall, we used to create the access control list, ACLs, right? And in your ACL, we used to basically define the source IP. We used to define the destination IP. We used to define the source port, destination port, layer 3 protocol number, right? These are the things which we can define. So your source port and destination port, it's a layer 3 information. Your source port and destination port, it's a layer 4 information. And layer 3 protocol is a layer 3 information, right? And we can only able to control the traffic on the basis of this information. Now, let's take an example on this particular server. It has one exe file. On this exe file, there is a one malware is available. And when this PC has created the connection with the server, when he will download this exe file, what will happen? This malware, how this malware will basically come from this server till this PC. This malware come as a layer 7 information, right? And as I have mentioned, your firewall, because it's a Cisco ASA firewall, it cannot able to understand. It is not able to understand the layer 7 information. So what will happen? Is your ASA able to protect you from this malware? It is not able to do that. That's the first problem with the legacy firewalls. They are not able to block towards the malicious traffic. Let's take an example. This particular server is sending some type of virus or some type of spyware. Is your firewall able to protect you from this spywares? Or maybe this particular PC is under attack. And we have one attacker system here, and that attacker is trying to exploit one of the vulnerability on this PC. Is your firewall able to protect from such type of attacks? No. And if you want a protection from these attacks, what do you have to do? If you want a protection from these attacks, what? You should add one more device here, which is IPS. I will not go with the next generation IPS. I'll just write down here IPS. What IPS will do for you? This intrusion prevention system will give you three features: antivirus protection, anti-spyware protection, and vulnerability protection. You will get these three features in your IPS. Is this IPS able to protect from, let's suppose this server is a malicious server, and this server URL comes under the malicious category. Maybe it is having some type of phishing website. Is this particular firewall or this IPS able to protect you from this particular malicious website access? No, it will not able to do that. And if you want to achieve this task, what you have to do? You have to purchase one more solution from Cisco, which is Iron Port, right? Do you heard that name, Iron Port? Iron Port is a URL filtering solution from Cisco. Remember. Now, let's take an example. On this particular server, we have some type of malwares, or we have some type of files, and these files downloading we want to block and the uploading we want to block. And if you want to achieve that task, or let's take an example, this particular server have a malware which is a very new malware, and your IPS is not having that signature for that malware or for that virus. Is your IPS able to protect this? No, it will not able to do that. And what you have to purchase one more solution, which is advanced malware protection AMP solution from Cisco. Now, if you have seen here, what we are doing or what Cisco is doing, just to get the features, just to get the layer 7 features, what you have to purchase 3 new box. These are the 3 new box, right? And when you will purchase these 3 new box, what do you have to do? You have to pay the amount. You have to hire one good resource who can maintain these devices, right? You have to manage the life cycle of these boxes. You have to manage the license related things. And the most important thing, whenever any type of traffic coming from this area, or any type of traffic, when it is going, what it will basically hit into your firewall, then it will go to IPS, then it will go to Iron Port, then AMP, then basically come back, and it will go like this towards your PC. It will add some extra delay, means it will add some extra processing delay, which is not a good thing, right? Because let's take an example. If you are running some type of application which is the delay sensitive applications, right? And these applications will not work properly, they will not function properly, right? So guys, that was the problem people are having with regards to the legacy firewalls. I hope you will get the idea for legacy firewalls. Right now, Palo Alto is the solution, or Palo Alto is the firewall. Using this pan OS, what you can able to do, all these particular features you will just get in one box. You will get all these features just in one box. So that was the benefit you are getting with regards to next generation firewalls, like your Palo Alto, your Fortigate, right? They used to provide all these features in the single box. And that was the main reason people is migrated from these legacy networks towards the next generation based networks. And if you have a Palo Alto firewall, let's suppose if you have a Palo Alto firewall here, you have a PAN OS. Now in your Palo Alto firewall, what you will get, if you want to configure the layers, if you want to configure any type of protection, what? Because this Palo Alto provide you the protection on the basis of layer 3, on the basis of layer 4, and on the basis of layer 7. At layer 7 feature, because it supports the layer 7 protection, you can able to configure the Let me use some different color. You can able to configure the app ID. Application identification means application based rule, because nowadays we have a couple of evasive applications. Like your evasive application are the applications which can run on any port. Guys, tell me the port number for HTTP protocol. Like generally HTTP based application runs on which port? Port 80, right? But torrent can also run on port 80. Torrent can also run on TCP port 53. Torrent can run on TCP port 21, 22, because it's a evasive application. And such type of application traffic we cannot able to control with the help of legacy firewalls. We need a next generation firewalls, because these firewalls support the app identification. Means now you don't need to configure the rules on the basis of layer 3 or layer 4 information. You can configure the information on the basis of applications, because when they will receive the traffic, they will try to do the app identification. And if they will analyze application is torrent, and if we have a deny rule for that, it will deny the traffic right away. So your next generation firewall support a very good feature, which is app ID. The second feature which is supported by the next generation firewall, which is user based policies. What was the problem we are having in the traditional networks? Let's take an example. We have a one server, and that server is hosted on one of the IP address. And in old days, how we used to do, we used to basically allow and deny the traffic towards that server on the basis of layer 3. But nowadays all the organization, they are using IP address via DSCP. Means your IP address may change every day. Then how we can control who can reach towards that server? It's a critical server, and we just want to allow the access to that server to for the HR users and sales users. So what we can create the user based policies, and this is also a very cool feature which is available in your next generation firewalls. Then we have a third feature, which is antivirus protection. Means we can able to configure these virus protection in your firewall, and all these firewall, they have a signature database for that, and they can basically protect us from the any type of virus related traffic. If any type of virus coming as a layer 7 payload, it will block that traffic. Your next generation firewalls, they have a support for anti spyware. They have a support for vulnerabilities. Means if some hacker is trying to exploit any of the vulnerabilities, what they will do, your next generation firewall protect you from these type of vulnerability exploitation attacks. So you will get a vulnerability protection. These firewalls will give you the file blocking related control. File blocking means file upload and download control. You will get the control with regards to the data protection. Let's take an example. Your organization dealing with some type of financial related data. In finance, we have a user's Aadhaar card details, user's PAN card details, we have a user's bank account details, right? User's credit card details, and how we can protect that particular data if somebody is trying to upload, right? What we can basically configure this data protection in your Palo Alto firewall. We can also able to configure the URL filtering. Means we will get the control on the basis of URLs. In old days, what used to happen, if we want to block the malicious website, we used to create the regular expression, and we used to block the traffic with regards to websites. But now that URL database is already created for you by the vendor, and basically you can utilize that database, and you can just configure these policies in one go. So these are the couple of benefits and couple of features which are available in your next generation firewalls only. So guys, that is the main reason people are moving towards the next generation solutions. And when we will talk about the next generation firewalls, your Palo Alto is the number one firewall on that particular list, because Palo Alto Firewall is the market leader and it has these features like your app ID. App ID, your content ID, your user ID means you can able to configure the application based rules. Because in previously, let's take an example, you want to allow the Zoom traffic in your organization. What do you have to do? You used to collect all the IPs from the Zoom peoples, and you used to configure the IPs. You want to configure these IPs in your ACLs, right? This is the way we are having. Let's take an example. Zoom has introduced new more IPs. Then what? You will get that list again, and you will update your rules again, right? And that was the headache, right? So nowadays, what happens? If you want to allow deny the Zoom traffic, you can just call this Zoom application, and job is done for you. In your Facebook, you can allow the Facebook access, but you can block the Facebook chatting, Facebook post. You can allow the LinkedIn, but in LinkedIn, you can block the Facebook LinkedIn posting, right? So such type of control you will get with regards to this app ID feature, right? They have application decoders, decryption, application protocol decoding, application signature, heuristics. These are the features which they will utilize to the app identification, right? So so multiple things we can able to achieve, and guys, we will discuss all of them in detail in your live sessions. Okay, so guys, this is what I just wanted to cover with regards to today's class. I will discuss these things because this comes under how Palo Alto Fire used to process the packet, right? How your SYN packet get processed, then SYN plus ACK, TCP ACK, then your HTTP get packet, then your remaining packets, right? How they will process. So everything we will discuss when I will cover your packet flow and all, right? So that's it, guys, with regards to today's session. The last thing which I wanted to tell you, if somebody is interested for this particular training and you want to enroll into this training, these are the contact numbers. So you can take out the screenshot of the, you can take the snapshot of these numbers. This number belongs to me. So you can directly call me and we can discuss if you have any type of queries on the Palo Alto Firewall side. Second number belongs to Vidit sir. So you can discuss with them if you have any queries on F5 related things. That's it, guys, for today's class. Thank you for joining this class. Let me just give you the mute permissions for Q&A.